Opening credits. Fight to Win. MMA Sports Romance Short Story. By Selena Coffey. Auto-narrated using Google technology. Chapter 1. I wish this dog would go number 2 already, Shelby Wilkes thought as she pulled on the leash, yanking her pug Bailey out of the street and the path of oncoming traffic. The dog had been constipated for 5 days, and the medicine the vet had given him did not seem to be working. The pug had been sniffing around and investigating every bush and every tree for almost a half hour. Just when Shelby thought he might do something, he would change his mind and go in search of another perfect spot. It boggled her mind how a dog's need to mark its territory completely overrode the need to relieve itself. She was enjoying the beautiful day, however. It was a balmy 95 degrees at 8 a.m., but the sun was shining brightly and the sky was totally clear. July was the hottest month in Phoenix, Arizona, but it was also the wettest due to the lovely monsoons that swept through on occasion at this time of year. So far this year, the season had been relatively quiet. Shelby didn't mind the heat really, and she loved the sunshine and the dry weather. She had grown up in West Virginia where the summers were humid and often wet, and the winters were cold and often wet. She had tired of that climate very quickly. She really didn't miss it at all. When her family had visited the Grand Canyon when she was 12, they had taken a drive down to the Phoenix area to visit some family. Her Uncle Bob lived out here with his family, and as soon as Shelby had seen the desert, she knew that she wanted to live here too. Her dad would not uproot the family though. He had worked too hard to become manager in his accounting firm to pack it up and move to a new city for a new start. As soon as she was 18, Shelby had headed for Phoenix and she had never looked back. The pug sniffed around a small cactus, and Shelby joked him away from it. He was always going after the cacti. She was not about to pay another vet bill to have the thorns removed from his nose again. That had not been pleasant for either one of them, the time he had chased a ball under a cactus. The poor little guy had been in excruciating pain until they were pulled out, and then had been sore for a few days after. She'd thought he had learned his lesson, but apparently old Bailey was a little slow on the concept of cause and effect. He finally found a bush to his liking after sniffing around, and raised his leg up over the bush to find the perfect angle. Shelby watched with bated breath, becoming vaguely aware of how weird it was that she was watching her dog try to poop so intently, but it had been days. Success. Shelby somehow felt like doing a victory dance, but she held herself together and looked away to give the pug some modicum of privacy while he did his thing. After he was done, she grabbed one of the little poop baggies from the dispenser clipped to her belt and picked up the mess. She hated it when people didn't do that, and it was becoming a huge problem. These little bags were not expensive and they lasted forever. People disgusted her. Carly, no. She joked her head in time to see a golden lab rush up to her pug. She immediately thought the worst and tried to pull Bailey back, but it was too late. The lab began to lick the pug to death. She breathed a sigh of relief when she realized it was a female lab, and Bailey was welcoming all of the affection with open arms. He was already trying to sniff some.
Censored.
The owner of the lab finally caught up to them, appearing just a little out of breath. He scooped up the leash and wrapped it several times around his wrist to make sure this didn't happen again. "I'm so sorry," the man said. He tugged on the leash, pulling his lab away from Bailey. "Carly, come on. Let him alone." Shelby laughed at the scene. "Well, I guess they like each other," she said. She bent down and began petting Carly, who responded with a smile and a wide pant, taking a break from the
Censored
bath she was giving Bailey. "Well, she seems to like you too," the man said. "Tell her the feeling is mutual." "She is beautiful," Shelby replied. "She says you are too," the man said. Shelby looked up at him. She wasn't sure if she should be offended or flattered. The line was bordering on silly and cute. It was tough to decide which one she preferred at the moment. "And the award for cheesiest line ever goes to me," the man joked, a little embarrassed at his Freudian slip-up. "It wasn't that bad. I've heard far worse." "Well, thanks. That makes me feel a little better, and bad for you. What the hell would be a worse line? The man laughed. You'd be surprised. Shelby stood up and pulled Bailey towards her. Oh, I'm Aaron, by the way. Aaron Davis, the man said, holding out his hand. Shelby shook it. I'm Shelby Wilkes. It's very nice to meet you, Shelby Wilkes. Are you new to the neighborhood? I just moved in a few weeks ago, Shelby said. Well, welcome. Are you from this area? I'm from West Virginia originally, she replied. I moved here when I was 18. I have lived here for a long time, and I have met very few Arizona natives. Everybody here is originally from somewhere else, it seems. I've noticed that as well. Shelby was starting to notice exactly how strikingly handsome Aaron was. He was tall with a lean but athletic build. His hair was cropped short, in a typical bad boy style, and he had several distinct tattoos covering the upper parts of his arms. She thought tattoos were sexy and beautiful. There was something very primal about them that she had always found attractive. Well, maybe I'll see you again, Aaron said as he began to pull his lab away. Yay, that would be cool. I walk Bailey here every day about this time, so I'm sure we will run into each other. Shelby wished she had shut up already. Was she sounding too obvious? It seemed to her like she was sounding too obvious. Well, how about we run into each other tonight? Say the Sky Bar? Shelby thought a moment. She would have loved to see him, but she wasn't sure she wanted to end up another notch on this guy's bedpost. He was sexy for sure, and he seemed like a nice guy, but she didn't really know him. He was probably just thinking that a chubby girl like her would have nothing else going on for her tonight. Well, that was true, but she was going to make him work for her affections. I'm kind of busy, but if you give me your number I'll call you, Shelby said. She handed her phone to him, and he typed in his info. Shelby started to walk away with Bailey. What? I don't get your number? Aaron said. Nope, Shelby replied, continuing to walk away. She glanced back slightly as she reached the other side of the road. Aaron was still standing there watching her with a sly grin on his face. Then he laughed and began walking away with Carly. Chapter 2. Ah? Shelby grunted, trying to squeeze the jeans onto her chubby frame. She had fit into these jeans perfectly 3 months ago, and now they were a size too small. Her heart sank as she took them off and threw them back in her closet. It was disheartening to know that she was still gaining weight. She had never really fussed about her weight too much, even though she had always been a bigger girl. She had always just been herself, and did not define who she was by her size. She knew some people tried to define her that way, and that they tried to make her feel bad about herself, but she had always been blessed with bulletproof confidence, and she just let that stuff roll off her back. She found herself thinking about Aaron, and how shocked he had been when she had not given him her number. He was probably someone who thought she might be an easy lay, or that she would be so grateful that he'd asked her out that she would have jumped at the chance. She was wondering when she should call him, or if she should. Maybe she would allow them to run into each other again, and then pretend that she had just been too busy. Either way, she was going to have a bit of fun with him. Grabbing a skirt from her closet, Shelby finished getting dressed and adding a few finishing touches to her makeup. She grabbed a wine cooler from the fridge and continued her pre-gaming for the evening. It was going to be a somewhat epic night, from what her girlfriends were saying. They had all ditched responsibility for the evening and decided to go nuts and wild tonight. Shelby thought about how many more of these kinds of nights she and the gang had in them. They were all nearing 30, and none of them seemed remotely close to the possibility of settling down. This was a bit troubling to her at times, but she was not in any position to settle down either. She dated regularly, and had even had a few serious relationships, but eventually it always went south. She was fiercely independent, and that seemed to threaten a lot of guys who were used to being in control of things. Shelby couldn't change who she was, and she absolutely refused to do so. It was just the way it was. Any man she ended up with for the long term was going to have to understand that, and he was going to have to understand she had a life outside of him. She sat down in front of her computer and began some proofreading of her newest writing project, correcting typos, adding words to fill in gaps of description, and moving things around to make the overall flow more readable. Shelby had been a freelance writer for 8 years, and she could not imagine doing anything else with her life. She had started writing when she was 8 years old and had never stopped. When she came to Arizona State, she majored in creative writing and had continued to write her own stuff on the side, working on her own creative voice. She had been lucky enough to have several mentors during her college career that helped her get her break into the world of freelancing. And the internet had made the whole market explode with the success of the Kindle publishing model and the creation of a multitude of freelance websites that brought freelancers and clients together faster and more easily than they ever could have been before. The hours were long because she forced herself to work long hours. That was the thing about freelancing. You could work as much or as little as you wanted, but the world of freelancing was also very uncertain. You might get a lot of work one month or hardly any. It was fickle that way. That was one of the reasons why she pushed herself so hard, but she also loved to write. She liked to joke that she had never had a job in her life because she had always earned her keep from her passion. Unfortunately, working 60-hour weeks as she did left little time to devote to a mate. That was one of the reasons her relationships had always suffered. It was a bit cliché, but she was truly married to her work. It always seemed to come first, and she didn't always mean for it to. She always felt that she needed to find someone who understood that. She needed someone who loved their work as much as she loved hers. Her friends had all tried to talk her into settling for someone who was close enough. They were all under the same assumption that she was too picky and that she put a wall up around herself. Shelby understood their concerns, but she was not going to change to suit anybody else. And Shelby Wilkes had never been the type to settle for anything. Her doorbell rang right then. She finished off the wine cooler and ran to the door, tossing it in the trash from across the room. It landed smoothly. Nothing but net. Yes, she was that good. She opened the door to see her two besties Michelle and Rachel standing there. They were both wearing their sluttiest dresses, so that meant they were going to party hard tonight. Shelby was with them. She needed to blow off some steam and try to forget about work for a bit. "All right, loving the outfit, but do we clash now?" Rachel said. "Clash? Why? Because I went with elegant and down to earth while you two are wearing outfits that scream pommy," Shelby asked. Michelle laughed, handing Rachel and Shelby both a beer from the six-pack she had brought over. "So where are we going tonight?" Shelby asked. "Image Bar?" Rachel suggested. "No, we've been there too many times. I always feel like I'm babysitting at that place," Michelle said. "How about Dorbin's? Or JP's?" She took a long drink of beer. "No one really goes to Dorbin's anymore, and I heard that JP's was dead ever since they got busted for letting minors in." "How about the Sky Bar?" Michelle said. "Oh yeah. That place is supposed to be cool." "I haven't heard much about it," Shelby said. "You guys been there?" They both shook their heads. "Okay, then we will try it out. Somebody else suggested it to me," Shelby said, finishing her beer and feeling the buzz starting up. Pre-gaming was her favorite part of the night some nights, so she was going to be damned if she was going to not do it right. Sometimes the bar sucked so bad that the pre-gaming was all you had to remember. "Who?" Michelle asked. "Just some guy," Shelby said. "Ooh. You got a mystery man?" "No, it's just some guy the first met walking Bailey." "What's he like?" "He was pretty nice, and gorgeous if you have eyes in your head. He gave me his number." "You didn't give him yours?" Michelle asked. "No. I got to make him work for it," Shelby said. "That's awesome, girl," Rachel said. She and Shelby high-fived. "Isn't that kind of childish to play silly games?" Michelle asked. "I don't think so. I just met the guy. How does it look if I give him my number? Besides, he asked me to meet him at Sky Bar tonight, but I turned him down. Both Rachel and Michelle gave her that look. What? I just met the guy. He might be a serial killer or something. How many gorgeous serial killers do you know of? Rachel asked. Shelby looked at her. Your logic is scary. So I guess you got a fella for tonight when we get there, already picked out. I don't know if he will be there or not since I turned him down, Shelby said. You're right. He is probably home waiting by the phone for your call, Michelle said. Shelby slapped her playfully on the shoulder. Shut up. Okay, so it's settled then, we are going to Sky Bar, Michelle said. The girls finished their beers and headed out the door. Sky Bar was located only about 10 minutes downtown from Shelby's neighborhood. It was ultra hip and trendy, but it seemed to have a good mix of both college-age kids and older patrons as well. This immediately made Shelby feel a bit more comfortable. It was getting to the point, now that Shelby and her friends were often among the older patrons of the bars they were attending. There were some more clubs that catered to an older crowd over in Scottsdale, but she found that she dreaded traveling that far more and more, just as she dreaded being out after midnight a lot of nights. Maybe she was getting too old to do this sort of thing. But tonight it was on. Rachel and Michelle let out a few hollers as they entered the club and instantly headed for the bar. The dance floor was packed. The music was loud. The neon lights were bright. Everything about the place screamed out total fun. Shelby tried to loosen up a bit, but the buzz she'd had earlier was already mostly gone, and she wasn't sure that she even felt like drinking anymore. She had worked a lot that week and was starting to feel the effects of sleep deprivation. She had been crazy excited to get out of the house tonight, but now that she was out, she just wanted to go home and curl up on the couch with a cup of tea and a good book. She grabbed a vodka tonic from the bar and began to sip it. Maybe she just needed to be re-lubricated with some alcohol. She actually hardly ever drank, except for the occasional wine cooler at the end of a long day of work. Rachel grabbed her out of nowhere and began pulling her towards the dance floor. Michelle hopped in on the action, and the three ladies began to shake their groove and tear up the dance floor. After a few minutes, Shelby was starting to get the old fun feeling again that she used to have. Sometimes it just took her crazy girls forcing her to be a little crazy and loosen up. Shelby caught the glancing eyes of several guys lined up on Hawker's Row, which is what women secretly called the line of horny guys, who stood in the corner watching all the girls dance like creepers, and hoping eventually to ingest enough liquid confidence to have the nerve to ask one of the girls to actually dance with them. This asking was usually just a guy coming up from behind the girl and grinding on her, hoping she didn't kick him away. It was beyond pathetic, but it was also laughable. Shelby loved to be sexy, and it was a powerful feeling to turn a man on just by something as silly as dancing with your girlfriends. There he was. Aaron was standing on one of the upper levels of the club that had a bar and a group of tables. The downstairs was mostly just a bar and a huge dance floor. If you wanted to sit down with your drink, but you didn't want to sit at the bar, then you went up there. Aaron had noticed her, and he was looking at her with a sexy smile. Had he come expecting to see her? Was he hoping to just score with some random club skank? Somehow she didn't think either was true. It appeared that he had planned to come to Sky Bar anyway, and had simply invited her to hang out with him. That was interesting. What is it? Rachel asked her. It's that guy. Shelby replied. What guy? The one I told you about. He told me about this place. Oh yeah? Where? Shelby pointed him out. Rachel glanced and gawked at Aaron, completely being obvious and stupid. Shelby tried to look away, but she caught Aaron's laughing face as he noticed. Damn. Now he knew she had been thinking about him. Oh well. The game could still continue. She grabbed Rachel and pulled her closer to her, enjoying the dancing and the closeness. It had been too long since she and her girls had done this. It was just so hard to get out of the house and force yourself to go. Michelle moved up on Rachel as a few guys made their way over to the group. They blended in slowly, and began to dance in close proximity to them, without going into a touchy-touchy bump and grind scenario. Michelle and Rachel were both just drunk enough to split up and start dancing with the guys. They were pretty cute, but not Shelby's type. They looked to be about 22, which apparently didn't matter at all to Rachel and Michelle. Those girls were hopelessly lame, Shelby thought as she walked back to the bar. She sat down at the bar. She didn't really want another drink, but the bartender sat another vodka tonic down in front of her. She gave him props for remembering, but had to take points away for assuming. That sort of thing kind of
censored
her off, but the drink immediately took the edge off. She watched as Rachel and Michelle were living it up with the college boys. The boys were all up in their business now, and they probably thought they both had a shot at getting lucky tonight. Shelby loved to see how her girls made guys squirm. Those guys were going to buy them lots of drinks and then go home alone. "I'm tired of dancing too." The voice came from her left, and she spun to see who was speaking with her. Aaron was standing there, drinking a beer. He was looking very calm and nonchalant, barely glancing at her, so they were both turned around watching the crowd on the dance floor. "I haven't seen you dancing," Shelby replied. "You just haven't been watching close enough," Aaron replied. Shelby smiled. He was playing the game, and she liked that. "So how was work today?" Aaron asked. "You want to know how my work was today?" "Yeah, I was just curious." "What kind of work do you think I do?" Shelby asked. Aaron stepped in front of her and looked her up and down as if trying to decide something very precise and delicate. "You teach karate to rabbits." Shelby laughed so hard her drink almost came out her nose. "That's very close actually," she said. "I'm a writer." "Wow, that's way more interesting. What do you write?" "Whatever people pay me to write," she replied. He looked at her inquisitively. Shelby clarified. "I'm a freelancer, so I basically write a bunch of different things for a bunch of different clients." "Very interesting. How about you?" "No, I'm not much of a writer. It's far too dangerous." "All those paper cuts," Aaron joked. Shelby slapped him playfully. "I meant, what do you do?" "Oh well, I train fighters." "Really? What kind of fighting?" "Mixed martial arts." "How did you get into that?" "I used to be a fighter, but now I pass my knowledge on to others." Shelby looked at him carefully and realized he did have the body of a fighter. He was athletic and lean, but obviously very strongly built. She found herself getting a bit hot and bothered, admiring his rippling physique beneath his tight-fitting shirt. "So were you a good fighter?" Shelby asked flirtatiously. "Well, I won a lot more than I lost." "Well, that's good. I would have liked to see you fight sometime. There are still a bunch of my fights on YouTube." Shelby's interest was now piqued. "I will definitely check that out." Aaron smiled at her. A few minutes passed without them saying anything to each other, just the casual glance. Shelby had to admit that she was becoming a bit more intrigued by Aaron. He was very comfortable with himself, and was obviously very proud of his accomplishments. She admired a man who was dedicated to a passion, like she was. He was somebody who might just understand her a bit. "I admire a woman who likes to watch sports." "Well, I don't really, but animalistic aggression like that is pretty hot," Shelby said. She had not meant to say it that way, and she was aware of how naughty it sounded. "Is that so? Well, I hope you are able to control yourself if you watch my fights," Aaron said. He was almost unable to get it out without laughing. Shelby felt embarrassed and lashed out with a playful jab to his shoulder. Aaron pretended to be really hurt for a second and continued laughing. "Maybe you should be a fighter. You've got some pretty strong moves." "Think you're pretty funny, do ya? Think you're pretty slick?" Shelby joked. "I've been told I can crack a joke or two," Aaron replied. He flashed her that grin that made her blush. She turned her head and took a long sip of her drink to hide it. He wasn't going to get her that easily. "So, what are you doing for dinner tomorrow?" Aaron asked. Shelby looked at him for a few seconds before answering. She was debating what lie to tell him, to keep him guessing about her. She was hoping to find something that was a bit offbeat, and not the usual run-of-the-mill lies that women use to shake a guy. "I'm not sure yet." "Why do you ask?" Shelby replied. "I was just wondering," Aaron said before he turned and slowly walked away. Shelby couldn't hold back the laughter. This guy was definitely smooth. That was the type of response she was looking for. Chapter 3. Shelby stepped out of the shower, dried off quickly, and put on her bathrobe. Coffee was calling her name ever since she opened her eyes. She was surprised that she had the fortitude to shower before bothering to go downstairs and make the coffee, but she wasn't even awake enough to do that yet. Sometimes a hot shower was what the doctor ordered just to initiate the waking up process. She stumbled downstairs and started up the pot of coffee. She was all set to begin making her breakfast when the doorbell rang. She answered the door, mildly annoyed that somebody was ringing the bell on a Saturday morning. If they didn't get throat punched, they should consider themselves lucky. She pulled the door open angrily and saw no one. She stepped out and looked around. She was about to go back inside when she saw a gold envelope glistening in the morning sun. Picking it up, she continued to look around to see who might have left it there, but the person had vanished like a ghost. Shelby walked back inside her home and opened the envelope. Inside was a piece of paper with some fancy writing on it. She read the message carefully several times. "Meet me at the park at noon. Take a chance unless you're scared." Scared? Shelby Wilkes was never scared. Although, right now she was a bit creeped out. It had to be Aaron. She didn't know him well, but she knew that he loved to play games as much as she did, and it looked like she had finally found a worthy opponent. How did he get her address? The internet, most likely. That would be really creepy if that were true, but she had told him her full name, and he knew the neighborhood she lived in. She had never seen him around there except that one day, so she was thinking that he had to live at least a couple blocks down the road from her. Greenway Park was a fairly good-sized community. Her phone buzzed just then. It was a text from Michelle. "Worst hangover ever." She replied back to the text. "That sucks. I just got an envelope from that guy, Aaron, left on my doorstep. Creepy. How does he know where I live?" Michelle's text replied. "Because I kind of told him." Shelby dialed Michelle's number. She answered on the second ring, sounding like death. "What do you mean you told him?" Shelby asked. "I saw him at the club last night. He is so fine. I was a bit drunk, and felt like you were being ridiculous with these games you are always playing. I didn't want to see you chase another great guy away with this crap." "What are you talking about? I wasn't chasing anyone away. And that is a huge invasion of privacy. It's weird. I almost had a heart attack when I saw that letter." "Why? What did it say? Something kinky?" "You are so perverted." "No, he wants me to meet him at the park at noon." "Sweet, I've never done it in a park before. Well, not since high school, but I was really drunk." Shelby burst out laughing. "Michelle, you are disgusting. Really, you truly need help." "I know this. I'm not going to get any." "I don't know what I should do," Shelby said. "What? Are you nuts? You are going to meet him, and you are going to have fun. You are going to let down that mega cow guard of yours, and let someone in. It is going to be sweet." "I am not a mega cow." "Yes, you are. This Aaron guy is totally hot and totally into you. Give him a chance." Shelby thought for a second. "Okay, Mom. I'll go." "I think you still need a mom telling you what to do," Michelle replied. After she hung up with Michelle, she poured her coffee and sat down to do some reading with breakfast. She was thinking about the date she had with Aaron. Maybe Michelle was right. She had been keeping guys at bay, and always afraid to let anyone in. Well, Aaron Davis, today is your lucky day. She arrived at the park about 5 minutes late. She was dragging her feet to this thing, but she knew that she needed to just let go and enjoy herself. Aaron was standing there in a grassy open spot with a picnic basket and a large blanket. The whole gesture was far more romantic than she had imagined, and she was touched by the sweetness of the idea. The food he had prepared was amazing. He had chicken salad sandwiches, potato salad, some fresh fruit, and a few beers. Shelby ate until she was stuffed beyond the telling of it. Every breath now hurt as her belly pushed food against her diaphragm. "That's how a woman is supposed to eat," Aaron said. He seemed proud of her, as if she had just finished first in a disgusting eating contest. She supposed it was cute. Actually, the more time she spent with him, the cuter everything he did seemed to be. She loved the way he set up his jokes, and the way the punchline was always something seemingly unrelated to the joke until you thought about it for a while. She loved the way he was genuinely interested in her, and not staring off into other directions when she was speaking. And she loved how focused he was on her, so much so that when two sexy-looking girls walked by and gave him flirty glances, he completely ignored them. They spoke at length about their lives up to this point. He told her about growing up, and exactly how he had gotten into fighting, and how he had been forced into early retirement due to a shoulder injury. "You want to see the scar? It's beautiful to look at when you're eating," Aaron joked. "I'll pass. I can just take your word for it that it is a beauty," Shelby said. "Okay, just let me know if you change your mind." "So, what happened after you got hurt?" "Well, I was really bummed when the doctor told me that I would never be able to fight again, or else I'd injure the shoulder permanently and have limited use in my left arm. I had to make a choice." "Wow, that is so tough." "Yeah, it's pretty hard to deal with when you are suddenly told that the very thing you've dedicated your whole life to is something you can't do anymore. It's a tough pill to swallow, that's for sure. I don't know what I'd do if I for some reason wasn't able to write anymore. I don't know how to be anything else," Shelby said. "That's awesome that you are dedicated to a craft like that. You can understand, kind of what I went through then with my own ordeal. So many people wander through life not knowing who they are, or what they want out of life. They just exist. I've never seen how anyone could just do that, and not go for it, you know?" "Absolutely. You can't drag me away from the keyboard most days. I just love what I do, and I only want to do that. People don't get that. It's why my relationships keep failing." "I can understand that. I've been in love a few times, but it ended up not working out because the other person couldn't understand my dedication to my craft." "I totally get that," Shelby said, and she really did. She was actually enjoying this conversation and getting to know Aaron almost as much as she enjoyed writing. That never happened. Walking back to her place, she had a newfound appreciation and feelings for Aaron Davis. She didn't want the date to end, and she was already thinking about the next time she was going to see him. As she stood on her doorstep and said goodbye, Aaron grabbed her suddenly but gently and leaned forward, planting his lips on hers. He tasted good and strong. She felt his warmth and his presence. "I'll call you," Aaron said. "Okay, great." Shelby ran into the house to call Michelle and Rachel. She was so happy that she couldn't stop giggling. Chapter 4. Aaron hit the heavy bag, circling it around and around between jabs and hard right hands. He threw in the occasional front kick and a spinning back kick, plowing through the bag and his imaginary opponent. His heart was pounding wildly in his body covered with sweat, and his mind was focused solely on the task at hand. He had to destroy this opponent, or it was going to destroy him. With a spinning back fist, he knocked the heavy bag so it recoiled high in the air, and slammed down towards the ground on its chain, where it bobbed and weaved as the vibrations tapered out of it. Aaron leaned against the bag and rested a few minutes. He felt like he was about to drop. He wasn't sure how long he had been at it, but his workout had gone far beyond even his physical fitness level. Even though he didn't get to hop in the ring anymore and fight, he still demanded himself to be in top physical condition. He was still a fighter. He was just retired. That was how he liked to think of it. He loved coaching and being a trainer. He loved running his own gym his way and teaching the techniques of the sport to the younger generation so he could help them avoid the pitfalls that he had fallen into a time or two on the way up as a young fighter. He took off his gloves, grabbed his water jug, and emptied it into his mouth. The cold water was so refreshing after a hard workout. He had a problem of remembering to stay hydrated at times. He would have to make sure he drank a bunch of water and Gatorade that night to compensate for it. In the shower, while surrendering himself to the soothing warmth of the water spraying over his body, he thought about why he had pushed himself so hard today. There was a definite limit to what he could do and what he wanted to do, and he had crossed it. He had trained as if he was fighting again and had a match coming up. He found himself actually thinking about Shelby. She was amazing. Ever since he had told her about himself, his past, and his career, he had been on this adrenaline high that was causing him to push himself harder than his capabilities might allow. Last night he had woken up with a vicious shoulder cramp and almost passed out because the electrolytes in his body had not been replaced. When this happened, his injury acted up. And he had been going all out on the heavy bag, allowing the momentum from his punches to vibrate back into his arm and up into his shoulder. It was hurting so bad the past couple of mornings, so he'd had to ice it all morning. But here he was at it again. Maybe he was crazy. He suddenly felt a pair of hands around his waist. He joked quickly, almost knocking the person to the ground. Had they not belonged to another fighter, they would have fallen quickly. Chelsea Ford jumped back out of his way as he twirled towards her, almost colliding with her.
Censored.
He realized it was her instantly and reached out to grab her to make sure she didn't fall, but his assistance was not needed. She was already steady and out of his reach, except for her large firm.
Censored.
"Whoa, what's got you so jumpy?" Chelsea said. Chelsea was one of the top female fighters in her circuit. She was sexy and dangerous in the ring. Aaron had fallen quickly for her, but when he found out she cheated on him with another fighter, one of his students no less, he had dumped her hard and fast. That was one thing he never could abide. He could not stand cheaters in any way. He figured if the person cheated on you once, then they would cheat on you again. "What the hell are you doing here?" Aaron asked. He was angered to see her, and he was angry that she had almost caused him to accidentally knock her on her ass. "I came to see you, handsome. You never give up, do you? When are you going to get it through your thick skull that no means no? We are done. End of story." "Oh, it's cute that you think that." "You are unbelievable," Aaron said. "I know. You've told me that after many wonderful nights in bed," Chelsea said. She reached forward and began to stroke his penis. He was momentarily distracted by his growing erection, but quickly came to his senses and slapped her hand away. "Grow up." Aaron turned off the shower and stormed out towards the locker room. "Come on, I barely touched you and it's ready to go. You can't tell me that you don't still want me. We had something great. I loved you and you ripped my heart out. I will never forgive you for that. We will never be together again. Oh, that's such a shame. One little mistake. One little mistake? When people are together, that means they are together. It is a commitment to each other. That is something you obviously still don't understand anything about. You always were the little drama queen," Chelsea said. "Whatever. Why don't you get lost?" Aaron finished putting on his clothes, grabbed his keys and started heading for the door. Chelsea rushed ahead and jumped in front of him, blocking the door. "Get out of my way. Oh, you can't leave now. I know you still want me. You don't just throw me aside. I don't know who the hell you think I am. You cheated on me. This is all your fault. Besides, I'm with someone else now." A look of anger crossed Chelsea's face and he smiled at the sight. It was about time this cow showed her true colors. "Oh, is that so?" Chelsea said. "Yes, now move." Aaron forged ahead, and Chelsea stepped out of his way. As he walked to his truck, he didn't want to look back, but he couldn't resist. He wished he hadn't, because he saw Chelsea standing there with the most evil expression on her face he'd ever seen on somebody. It sent chills down his spine. That girl was crazier than he even realized. Chapter 5. Shelby was about 2 hours into her morning writing stretch when her phone buzzed with an email notification. She normally turned her cell phone off during the blocks of time she had marked off for writing. She had to immerse herself in a bubble of total silence before she could really focus on the work she had to do. She wasn't even able to have any music playing at that time. She had tried music because she had read it helped some artists and writers get into the creative spirit, but it made her want to get out of her chair and sing along with her favorite songs. She had decided very quickly that she would have to have total silence and no distractions to do her work effectively. She was stunned out of her writing mode by the sound of the phone, and she instantly scolded herself. She had been right in the middle of a great scene, and being interrupted was the most annoying thing she could possibly think up right at that moment. She wanted to punch a wall for a brief second. But she needed her hands to write, so she just gritted her teeth, that damage was already probably done, and checked the message. It was an email from someone she didn't recognize. Normally she would just chalk it up to spam and delete it, but the subject line read, Aaron Davis.
Censored.
Tape. Her heart caught in her.
Censored.
What the hell was this? It had to be some sort of a sick joke. Who would do this? She realized that she still hadn't opened up the video yet. Was she that afraid of what she would find? Was Aaron cheating on her? Could she even call it cheating yet? After the sweet day in the park, they had gone on several other dates, including last week when they had visited the Grand Canyon and then hopped over to see the Hoover Dam. After that, they spent a day and a night in Vegas. Aaron had been a perfect gentleman, even suggesting they get separate rooms, but Shelby wasn't having that. You don't take a girl to Vegas after a romantic couple of days and expect to get separate rooms. Aaron had been quite surprised that she had suggested it. They had made love for the first time together in that Vegas hotel room. It had been sweet and romantic. The way their bodies moved together, creating a perfect poetry of expressive.
Censored.
That was the thing Hollywood romance movies tried to capture. It had been the most intense night of her life. Aaron just knew where to touch her and how to touch her, as if he had read a book on everything she liked. He had even done some things to her that she had never known she liked. Shelby had not thought about it that much, but she realized right then and there that she was falling in love with Aaron Davis, and if this video showed him cheating on her, then she might have fallen apart right then. She took a deep breath and just pushed play. The video began. It was worse than she had expected. It showed Aaron and some hot girl in the midst of a passionate,
censored
encounter. Aaron was on top of the girl, and he was riding her doggy style. In the lower left-hand corner of the video, it showed the date. It was the night after they had returned from Vegas. Shelby turned it off and allowed the tears to well up in her eyes. She felt a piercing, stabbing pain deep in her,
censored
right over her heart. It felt like she couldn't breathe, and she thought she might be having a heart attack, or at the very least an intense panic attack. She stumbled to the kitchen and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. She chugged it hard and sat down at the table to allow the pain to pass by. It slowly started to, and she felt her breathing return to normal. She closed her eyes and concentrated on her breathing, just allowing the hyperventilation to go away. It was over with Aaron. He had betrayed her just when she was starting to feel close to him. She had opened herself up and let him into her heart despite all of her misgivings and hesitations, and the worst had happened. He was supposed to pick her up for their dinner date that night. She knew what she had to do. Shelby picked up the phone and forwarded the email to him. She added a text line to the body. "Hope you had fun with your whore. We are done." Shelby walked into her living room, sat down on her couch, and cried until she passed out. The knock at her door woke her up. Darkness consumed her as she tried to get her eyes to focus. The only light she could make out was the glow of the digital clock on the front display of her cable box. She moaned as her body moved, feeling the bones in her back crack and pop as the joints came to life. She had not slept that good in a long time. "Shelby. Open up, we have to talk." Shelby turned on the light in the living room and winced as her eyes adjusted. "Go away. There is nothing to talk about." "Shelby. This is a lie. I did not cheat on you." Shelby opened the door so she could look Aaron in the face. "Really? You are going to stand there and lie to me? I saw the video. It's right there, plain as day. This woman is my ex-girlfriend. She is unbalanced. She cheated on me and I broke up with her, but she won't take no for an answer. This video is fake. Give me a break. That is clearly you and her in the video." "Yes. It is me and it is her, but the date is completely wrong. It is from 6 months ago." "How can I know that? I want to believe you, but I just can't. How can you expect me to believe that story?" "I can prove it." Shelby looked at him incredulously. "How?" Aaron pointed to his ankle. It was bare except for a barbed wire tattoo. "So? What about your ankle?" "I didn't have the tattoo in this video. This is my newest tat. I got it 2 months ago. Apparently, Chelsea doesn't pay attention to detail. She is just trying to break us up. She still thinks I'll take her back." Aaron held up his phone. It showed the paused video of him and Chelsea having
censored,
where his ankle is clearly visible, with no tattoo. He was telling the truth. Shelby burst into tears, lurched forward, and wrapped her arms around Aaron's neck, pulling him close. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry." "It's okay, baby. You had every right to think that, but I promise you that I am not a cheater, and I would never do anything to hurt you or betray your trust. I love you, Shelby Wilkes." Shelby pulled back a second and looked him dead in the eyes. She could see that he really meant every word of what he said. There was nothing hiding behind those perfect eyes of his. "I love you too." The words echoed in the calm air of the dark night and hung there, repeating in her ears. She had heard those words spoken before, but she had never believed that they were true until just now. The cadence and timing in his voice, and the emotion behind the words, as well as the truth gleaming from his eyes, told her all she needed to know. He really meant those words when he said them. She leaned against him, and let her tears continue to fall as the emotional outburst slowly started to subside, returning her to a normal state of being. Chapter 6. 6 months later. "She is so amazing," Aaron thought as he saw his beautiful bride walking down the aisle. He was completely enamored with the way she was basically glowing in the light of the beautiful old church that was packed with close friends and family. He never really thought that this day was going to come. It was one of those things he had longed for and wished for, but he had just about given up hope on the search when Shelby walked into his life. He supposed he should thank Carly, his beloved lab, for introducing them. He had wished she could have been here. It was weird to have a dog at a wedding, but stranger things had definitely happened. In the end, he was outvoted. He smiled at the thought. Shelby looked so beautiful in her wedding dress, and he had to fight the tears that were threatening to roll down his face. He had never been happy enough to cry before, and it was a surreal experience for him. But the event unfolding before his very eyes was something that he was not equipped to handle. As she came closer to him, a beautiful, sweet smile on her face, he found himself replaying the events of the past several months over in his head. After the fiasco with the
censored
tape that Chelsea had sent to Shelby, he had confronted her. Chelsea had been a little
censored
that she had neglected such a vital piece of evidence in her trickery, but she had laughed the whole thing off. Too bad for Chelsea that she was set to fight one of his friends in an upcoming match. Vanessa Daniels was a top-ranked female MMA fighter that Aaron had known for years. They had never been anything romantic, because their relationship felt almost like brother-sister. She truly was the little sister that he never actually had. When Vanessa heard about what Chelsea did, she made it a point to punish her in the ring. It was a brutal beatdown of a fight, with Chelsea enduring a career-ending busted knee. Aaron had not asked Vanessa to do that, and he had actually felt pretty bad that it had happened, but Vanessa was very protective of him when it came to women, and she had gone out of her way to make sure that Chelsea paid for what she did. He looked over at Vanessa and smiled. She smiled back with pride. She had loved Shelby from the moment she met her, and the two had become fast friends, which was very important to Aaron. He did not have that many truly close friends, but Vanessa was one of them. Shelby reached the end of the aisle and was now standing in front of him. He reached up and grabbed her hand gently, taking it in his and watching her small hand disappear in his large grip. She smiled that amazing warm smile at him, and he felt the first tear roll out of the corner of his eye. He smiled as a wave of relief fell over him. It was the type of relief one feels when you realize that what you have so desperately wanted and longed for has finally arrived, and it is even more spectacular than you thought it could be. Shelby's face lit up even more when she saw the tear stream down his face. As the minister spoke, Aaron blocked out most of what was said. He was too caught up in looking into Shelby's eyes, and the amazing times they'd enjoyed together over the past 6 months, and the wonderful times that were surely to come in the future for them. That night, they would be heading towards their honeymoon destination, the Bahamas. Aaron had always wanted to go there, and so had Shelby. Aaron had traveled fairly extensively during his fighting career, but he had not gone outside of the country, except for a few fights in Mexico and Canada. He had never traveled anywhere exotic, and he was looking forward to a great getaway with the love of his life. The hardest thing for him and Shelby was going to be letting go of work, but he was proud of Shelby. She had worked extra hard to get caught up with all of her clients, so she could take the week off for their honeymoon vacation. He admired the way Shelby worked so hard at something she was passionate about. She was so determined in everything she did, and he knew there was nothing out of that woman's grasp if she wanted it. It was great how they could just immerse themselves in their work and not see or talk to each other for hours on end, and when they came together it was like they had not even been apart. If someone had sat him down and explained to him when he was younger that this is what love was supposed to feel like, then he wouldn't have been in such a hurry to make it happen, and he wouldn't have wasted so much time and made so many mistakes with women who were obviously not right for him. But he guessed it was all for the best. Everything he had done and everything he hadn't done or achieved had all brought him here today. He thought about all of the what-ifs in his life and how each decision, no matter how big or small, had altered his life in some beautiful way to carefully bring him to this moment at this time. It was all so perfect. He was not a deeply religious man, but at times like this he had to believe something higher than him was behind the wheel. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to unite Aaron and Shelby, two pure souls who have found each other according to God's beautiful plan. At a time like this, we are reminded of what it means for two people to unite themselves together and to make a pact, an eternal commitment to each other before all of us and before God. The minister's words filled the air in a hauntingly sweet, almost musical sing-song monotone. Aaron found himself feeling faint for the briefest of moments, and then it was gone. He wondered if Shelby felt it. When two people make this pact together, they are forsaking the affections of all others and allowing their bodies, minds, and spirits to become one person. They will stand as one person for the rest of their earthly days and into the afterlife where they will remain united forever. The pairing of these two children of God that you will all witness today is perhaps the greatest gift our Maker gave us. It is the ability to fall in love with another and the privilege of sharing one's life with that person. The Lord, our God, did not want man to be alone. He has foreseen it, and he has made it so. Aaron was starting to feel that the minister was laying it all on a little thick, and as cheesy as what he was saying felt, Aaron found himself tearing up more when he realized it was a perfect analogy for the way he felt about his bride. Aaron thought about the plans he and Shelby had made together for the next few years. They figured they would both want a bigger house for the two of them and the children they planned on having. It was something both of them had always dreamt of, having children, and Aaron was looking forward to it more every day. They did want to take a few years and enjoy just being a free couple who could come and go as they pleased. There was a lot of the world neither of them had ever seen and they both wanted to, but eventually children were going to be in the picture. Aaron found it funny how when he was younger he never saw himself as a dad, or even a husband, but as the years rolled by, he started feeling like there was something missing from his life. He had a lot of love to give, and he had a lot of guidance to share. He felt he had gained so much knowledge about life over the past few years, and he didn't want that wisdom to go to waste. Shelby would be an amazing mother as well. She was so caring and so nurturing, once you broke down the walls she had constructed around herself to keep the world at bay. He had somehow been able to do that, and once he was inside those walls he never wanted to leave. It was the perfect place to be, with the perfect woman. After the ceremony, they partied it up at the reception. Shelby and Aaron had launched themselves out onto the dance floor. Aaron had never considered himself much of a dancer, but the spirit grabbed him, and he found that he could not stop dancing. He was having too much fun, and feeling way too good from the endorphin rush of getting married. As soon as the minister said, "To
Censored.
the bride," Aaron had been on that high. It was all over, and the nerves and excitement had built to a final crescendo that finally exploded. And the alcohol probably helped a bunch. Both he and Shelby drank a lot that day, but not too much. They did want to remember the wedding day after all. The next morning, they were on a plane heading for the Bahamas. The flight was so smooth, and Aaron was so happy that they had decided to fly first class, even though it was twice as expensive. They had decided to splurge and make it happen. As they approached the end of their flight, and they could see the Bahamas Islands coming up in the distance, Shelby reached over and grabbed his hand. He turned to look at her, and got lost in the beauty of her eyes. "I love you," she said. "I love you too, Aaron."
Censored.
Her sweetly. As they walked off the plane, they were taken in by the culture of where they had arrived. Aaron was used to beautiful sunny weather, living in Phoenix, Arizona, but he was amazed by how blue the ocean looked when you were that close to it. As they rode towards the hotel and resort where they were staying, he marveled at the crystal-clear blue water that reflected the sunshine back at him. It was breathtaking to say the least. As far as he could see, there was nothing but blue, so much so that it was impossible to tell where the sky and the water split apart. They stretched on in an endless direction of mingling blues and sunshine. As he watched this vision, it reminded him of how it was a perfect metaphor for the journey that he and Shelby were embarking on. He was no longer alone, and neither was she. They were two shades of blue that had come together at last to create their own distinct shade of blue. It was uniquely theirs, and no one could ever interrupt it, and nothing could ever separate the gleam from the blue. It was time for the next step. Thank you for reading my book. If you like this story, I think you'll enjoy my author friend's book Rough Start. A big favor to ask. I would really love it if you could take a few seconds to leave me a review. Thank you so much in advance. About the author. Selena Coffey is a romance writer who lives happily in London with her husband and son. She is a hopeless romantic who grew up always believing in love, and she is not ashamed to admit this. It is this belief that makes her so passionate about writing crazy love stories. A stereotypical girly girl, she loves shopping. So whenever she gets a chance and the spare cash, you will probably find her browsing online for the next pair of shoes to add to her collection. You can find her online at www.selenacoffee.com. Contact her at hello@selenacoffee.com. Closing credits. This has been Fight to Win. Written by Selena Coffey. Auto-narrated using Google technology. Copyright 2024 by Lovie Books Limited. Production copyright 2024 by Lovie Books Limited.